Welcome to episode number 163, 3 common mistakes in aviation marketing. And we have seen many, right?
Oh, yes.
We have done many.
Yes, that too.
So I'm Paula Williams.
I'm John Williams.
And we are ABCI, and ABCI's mission is
to help all you ladies and gentlemen out there in the aviation world sell more products and services.
Right. And to that end, today we're talking about some of the things that happen in our practice and some of the things that we see happen with the companies that we work with that make it harder to sell more products and services in the aviation industry, and a lot of the reasons that things don't sell as well as we think that they should. So this episode has been brought to you by our sales and marketing lab, where we learn from our clients, and our clients learn from each other, and our clients learn from us, and we all learn from other businesses that are all aviation related who are running around trying things, hopefully in controlled environments, making mistakes and learning from them and failing quickly and moving on to bigger successes as we do this, right?
Absolutely.
All right. So things that are included in the marketing lab that help with that are the networking. So a lot of times when people talk with each other about some of the mistakes that they've made, or catch things before they become public mistakes, that's always really nice. And also the custom consulting in our office hours, we can go through some things that we may have seen before that have been tried and not worked, right?
Absolutely.
Okay. So these are the 3 mistakes that we see the most often in our practice. And those are, number 1, random acts of marketing, right?
Yep.
Okay.
That's where we started.
Number 2, underpricing your product.
Oh, heavens, yes.
Okay. And number 3 is underestimating the difficulty of making sales. So today we're going to talk about those 3 mistakes, how you can recognize if you've made them, what could possibly go wrong with these types of situations, and how to catch that and correct it, right?
Yes.
Okay. Fantastic. So the first one, random acts of marketing. This is one of the very first episodes that we did was about random acts of marketing, and there have been a lot that we've learned since then. There are many ways to do random acts of marketing.
Oh, heavens, yes.
Right. And in most cases, this is kind of how you fall into a random act of marketing, right? You get an idea. What do they call that in the military?
You get hit over the head by a good idea fairy.
Exactly. Or you get a call from a salesperson who has a fabulous deal on search engine optimization, or an ad in a magazine, or a banner ad somewhere, or some marketing, some act of marketing, right? Mm-hmm. That you have never thought about before, but it sounds like a good idea. It's a nice, shiny object, and you think, wow, I'll try this. But in the process of trying this, you don't connect it to your existing marketing system.
If you have one.
So, in some cases you may have this go to a broken page on your website. I've seen that happen with banner ads.
Or no web page.
Or have people call a phone number
that doesn't exist.
Or
isn't answered.
Right, goes to a full voicemail.
Mm-hmm.
Those kinds of things. In any case, there's a disconnect somewhere so that ad or that act of marketing can't be as effective as it could be. And then the third thing is you don't really measure the results. And as a result of that, somebody asks you a month later or 6 months later, so, you did this, how did it go? And you go, well, I don't really know.
We've heard that a lot.
Exactly. I kind of feel like maybe we got some more calls, but I don't know for sure whether
we
that
don't
was...
care about feelings, and neither should you.
Right.
You look about the numbers.
Right. In God we trust, all others
pay cash.
Bring data. Right. Exactly. Okay, so what's wrong with random acts of marketing? The first one is that they waste money.
Oh, big time.
And, that's probably the most annoying thing to a CFO, right?
Well, yes. You spend the money and don't get any results.
Or you don't really know what your results were.
Assuming that if you don't know, then that means you didn't get any.
Exactly. The second thing is that you waste time. So maybe you do this for 3 months thinking this is working before you figure out that it didn't. That's 3 months that you're going to have a subsequent dip in your sales,
right,
where you could have been making better decisions and have better results.
Absolutely.
And I think the most upsetting thing is that people get disappointed with their company, their product, with marketing, with sales, with all kinds of things. And that disappointment leads to a lot of things. You could have turnover in your company, which is always tragic, or you might just have a loss of enthusiasm on your own part, which is really a big detriment.
Yes, it is.
When it comes to making future sales and with being excited about your job and your life and your product and your service, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. So we want to avoid all those things. So what can we do instead?
Have an integrated marketing plan.
Okay.
What a concept.
So same beginning, right? You get an idea. There's nothing wrong with having ideas, right? Okay. Or you get a call from a salesperson. Either way, you can start a great new active marketing in a way that could be really successful, starting in the same way. You get a great idea, you want to try it out. Somebody calls you with an offer on some advertising or something like that. You want to try it out. So what you do is you connect it to your existing sales and marketing system. You make sure that there is a way for you to measure the results coming from that ad or that postcard or that banner ad or whatever it is that you're doing. Almost everything that we do is what we call direct response marketing, where there is a way to measure how many responses did we get. So is it tagged so that you'll be able to measure clicks coming in? When people call that number, are they supposed to tell you something? I found you in this magazine. Do you have a way of tracking to make sure that you know how many responses you got to that ad, right?
Or do you have a landing page specifically for that one?
Exactly. Then people don't know they're being tracked, but they are. So that's even more elegant and things like that. And then you measure the heck out of your results, right? So you know how many of those came in. And it might take 6 or 8 months. This is what's really kind of hard about the aviation industry, is it sometimes takes 6 or 8 months or longer for that contact to result in a sale.
Right.
So if the first time they found you was on Twitter, let's say, and then they don't buy right away, you may lose track of that unless you have a tag in your CRM, which is one way of measuring the heck out of things.
And you have to throw the outliers out, because we've had people come back from as far back as 8 years and buy.
Right, and they found us in many different ways. But that doesn't mean that any particular one of them is any more or less effective, just that we know one of the ways that they did find us, right?
And then we've made a sale in a week. So
That's also true.
You throw out the outliers like that, and the rest of it averages out to around 8 months. Exactly.
Right. So, same process, just that second step is different and that third step is different. So,
exactly.
Right. So what's great about this, doing it this way, you know exactly how much money you make. So, if you spend $1 and you make $1.20, you can do that all day long.
Of course.
As long as you've got the cash flow to support it, right? So it really helps you control your cash flow a lot better and control your investments a lot better, so that you know exactly what you're spending money on. It also saves you time, because if, let's say, your average sales cycle is 8 months like ours is, the contacts that we're making today will result in some percentage of them being sales 8 months from now.
That's correct.
Okay. And we're not wasting that time and having a lull in our sales 8 months from now and not knowing why.
And we've done the numbers long enough to know that that's a fact. And if we have a week without sales, we know what's going to happen 8 months later.
Exactly. That's exactly right. So, we
without sales calls, that is.
Right. So I might be too busy to make sales calls this month, and we may be so busy we don't even notice, but we will notice 8 months from now.
Yes, we will.
Right. And then the last thing is you don't get disappointed, right? You stay excited. Your people stay enthusiastic. They keep making commissions. They're happy. You're making sales.
And the system's working.
The system's working. Exactly. So that's the most important thing to us, because if you keep your enthusiasm level high and everything else is working, then it all just works, right?
Yep.
That's what fuels the system. So once again, 3 mistakes we see in our practice are random acts of marketing, underpricing your product, and underestimating the difficulty of making sales. So underpricing your product. Let's talk about that for a minute. This is not what aviation is all about, right?
No.
At least not business aviation. You may see some of this going on in the airlines where they're undercutting each other's fares, and in a lot of cases they suffer for that because they're, in some cases, losing money, or they end up in a race to the bottom. In business aviation in particular, we really don't want to be in this situation where we're underpricing our product. And there are four things wrong with underpricing our product. One is credibility. And we like to use the analogy of the $40 Rolex, right?
Yeah, exactly.
If somebody, even in a really nice store in the mall, is selling a Rolex for $40, your first inclination is to say,
something wrong with that, move on.
Right, exactly. That can't be a real Rolex. Or it must be stolen goods, or, there's something wrong with this picture. Same thing with aviation. We expect to pay a premium in a lot of cases for quality products and services. And if something is a bargain basement kind of a deal, or even something is offered for free, and this is a mistake that a lot of new companies will make, is they go overboard on the free trials and discounts and other kinds of things, thinking, well, if I just drop my price, I can get a first customer or two. But the problem with that is in a lot of cases you're killing your credibility. Mm-hmm. And they're thinking, oh, well, they can't even give this away, so I don't want to have anything to do with it because it costs me more than money even to try it. Right. It costs me time. It costs me possibly credibility with my clients. My customer service might drop if this system falls or, whatever happens, mm-hmm. or this product doesn't work, or it's a lemon. So if something is inexpensive, in a lot of cases, it will cause that credibility to drop. Second thing is it impacts your cash flow.
Yeah, no kidding.
And what horrible things can that do to a business if they have cash flow problems?
Put you out of business.
You can put you out of business if you can't pay your bills that month, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Right, exactly. You also can't invest in research and development. You can't invest in the kinds of things that keep you current, new technology, other kinds of things.
That's the case you have to go borrow money. Right.
If you decide you want to upgrade something to
or
keep your quality high. Or
even just to keep going and pay the bills.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And then the last thing is quality. So quality people, quality equipment, quality all that stuff takes money. And probably the most expensive thing in the world is quality customer service people. The unemployment rate is so low right now that people have lots of options, especially really good people mm-hmm. have lots of options. So if they don't like working for you, or if you're not paying them enough, they're out the door, right?
Yes, they are.
Okay. So quality pilots, quality dispatchers, quality customer service reps that pick up the phone when your customers call. You don't want to be cheap on people, or it will show, right?
Yes, it will.
Okay. Jason Mars, with Dan Kennedy, wrote a book. It's the No BS Guide to Product Pricing. And we had him on our podcast way back mm-hmm. several years ago. But that book I highly recommend because it talks about the different theories of pricing and how to come up with a good price for your product, and also a thing called price elasticity. If you can't charge enough for your product, you're probably not positioning it right or packaging it right, or you are allowing people to commoditize your product right. and see it head to head with a customer, where you need to offer more than your competitor is offering and have a higher price.
And if you just started a company or even just started a new product line, mm-hmm. pricing is not a snap decision. It requires some in-depth thought, some research mm-hmm. to come up with an applicable price. And then after a month or two or three, you're going to move it up or down anyway.
Exactly. So that's the other thing, is you may want to offer an introductory price just to see how that plays into your sales process, see how many objections you get. In a lot of cases, when people object and say it's too expensive, that doesn't mean it's too expensive. No. That just means you haven't convinced me that it's worth it.
Right.
Right. So don't jump to the conclusion that your price is too high. In fact, almost all the time when someone has a question about this, we advise them to raise their price. And almost all the time, in spite of the butterflies it gives them, it ends up working out better, right? Even for us.
And this even works for the larger companies. Take mm-hmm. Disney as an example.
Mm-hmm.
They just raise prices 25% across the board.
Right, and this is after our last podcast when we talked about Disney raising prices all the time. So this was another thing we read a month or two later.
Right.
So they are still doing it, and it's still working for them.
Yes.
Okay, so what is so great about premium pricing? First of all, it gives you the cash flow to do all of those things that we mentioned, make your payroll, invest in things, sleep at night, things like that. Second thing is it does allow you to upgrade your software, upgrade your equipment, do your maintenance.
Train your people.
Do all of those things that make you have a higher quality product than your competitors.
And your street cred goes up.
Yeah. And then you can also invest in your people, in training and bonuses and other kinds of things to keep them happy, keep the turnover low. All of those things, right? Mm-hmm. You're smiling.
That's what I said.
Okay. Yeah, I guess that is what you said. So are we keeping your morale high? Just curious. John's our only real employee. So if he leaves, we're in deep trouble, right? Okay, so underpriced your product.
We contract with everybody else.
Exactly. All right. So, and then the third thing is that people do tend to underestimate the difficulty of making sales. They think it's a meritocracy, right? If I make a better product or service than everyone else, then I will sell more products or services, and that is just not true.
No, if you make a better mousetrap, you have to convince the world it's better.
Exactly. So this is a cartoon that says, never mind the books about how to change myself. I want to find a book about how to change everyone else. It's a woman in the self-help section of a bookstore. Mm-hmm. This is what we're trying to do, is change someone's behavior. And it is so hard to change someone's behavior. And even if you think you have no competitors, they are doing something now other than doing business with you. And go ahead.
No, I was going to say, if you think changing somebody's idea is difficult, if you want to do a little research, a very good movie is Inception.
The movie Inception, right? That's the Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, and they talk about ideas and things like that. It's kind of instructive.
Yeah, that is on Netflix, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. We just watched that again and are going to have to watch it again because we are still trying to figure out what happened. So. But the point is, it is very, very difficult to change someone's mind and to change someone's habits. So if they are in the habit of chartering with another company or doing their maintenance in a particular place or buying a particular product, even, the brand of peanut butter you buy, you're very unlikely to change that unless you're incredibly dissatisfied or, something happens.
Something has to happen to prove to you that the alternative is better.
Exactly. And people underestimate. They think, oh, well, if I can just make the argument that my product is better, it takes more than just that. It takes, the realization that it's actually hurting them to do what they're doing now. It has to be worth it to them to change the routine. People are so lazy. It's not even lazy. It's just they're so busy that they don't want to have to expend more effort than they have to. So, okay. So what is not working in your favor? Isaac Newton, right? An object in motion tends to stay in motion. An object at rest tends to stay at rest. And this is a cool little science project where you take a rod and you put a 10-pound weight in the middle. And it is super easy to turn that thing. Or is that vice versa? You put a 5-pound weight in either end, and it's really, really hard to turn that thing. I think it's the opposite.
No, when you get started turning with a 5-pound weight at the end, it takes a while to get it moving, but then you almost can't stop it.
Exactly. So getting that started with the 5-pound weight on either end is kind of hard. Mm-hmm. So this is the situation we're in aviation, is that people tend to be very, very loyal, which is good, but they're very, very loyal to the person they were doing business with before you walked in the door.
Right.
So that works against you. And people don't understand that it's going to take a while and it's going to take multiple contacts. So what you really need is, once again, a marketing system that lets you send them a postcard or a newsletter or a social media contact or a little video or a tutorial or something like that. Month after month,
they need to get to know you and then to know your product, and then say, that just might be something to try.
Right. And then at some point during that process, all of that preparation is going to meet with an opportunity because they're going to run into a problem with their old vendor. Their old vendor is going to be out of stock, or they're going to have a new budget that they can, spend more money perhaps than they did last year. Or there's going to be turnover at that organization and the new guy is going to say, let's try something different. There's going to be some kind of a situation where the opportunity meets your preparation for some number of those people that you've been in contact with,
That's
right?
Exactly correct.
Okay. So once that happens, what's great about that is that there are barriers to entry for businesses in the aviation space. In a lot of cases, it's very expensive to get started, and there is a very limited number of customers, and people already have relationships with those people. Those are the barriers to entry. But once you get past those barriers to entry, they work in your favor just as well. Exactly. So then that turns around from the 5-pound weight at the end is really hard to stop, right? Just like a propeller on an aircraft.
Well, yes.
Keeps going forever and ever and ever unless you...
Well, rotor on a helicopter that is weighted. Some of the older helicopters have weights in the end of the blades.
Yeah.
And you shut them down, it takes forever for them to stop.
Exactly. That's why you see people ducking.
But it also provides some very good inertia if you need it.
Right. So we know all about inertia being in aviation, hopefully. But there is a lot in marketing and sales in aviation as well. So you can use what you know about that in your favor. So once again, 3 mistakes people make.
RIOM.
Random acts of marketing.
UIP.
Underpricing your product.
And UDMS.
Underestimating the difficulty of making sales.
Yep.
Thank you for acronymizing all of that. All right. So once again, this episode was brought to you by our Sales and Marketing Lab, which is where we learn about all the mistakes that people make, and we help them prevent them so that they can do sales more easily and get past some of that inertia.
Help them work through research and tryouts and things.
Exactly. So if you'd like to talk about your sales or marketing situation, there is a button on our website that you can push and schedule a 30-minute consultation with us, with John and I, and we will sit down with you and talk about your whatever challenge you're running into at the moment, right?
Yep.
Okay. So thank you for joining us, and have a lovely afternoon. We'll see you next week.
See you next time.